The LinkedIn thought leaders of today will be the future legal rainmakers of tomorrow.
That the biggest rainmakers are super connectors.
Social media isn't the forum for lawyers to build trust and be taken seriously. Trust as a concept is earned, and it is earned by actual performance, not performative posting.
If you're just pushing paper, why are people paying you?
Lawyers getting drunk on the algorithm.
If you've got 500 of the right people in your network and you're providing value to them, often you're going to become the go-to expert in your niche.
I'm going to say it in a dramatic way, just for effect.
You're really building this up now, come on. This is a really, really important topic. So the last few months we've been sort of beavering away in the background and having loads of conversations with lawyers, non-lawyers, all sorts of different people who want to grow their practice, grow their business, grow their influence and presence. And one of the things that keeps coming up is people say, well, I don't know how to be on the platform. I don't know how to actually write in a way that connects with my ideal audience and my ideal clients. And the thing that people miss all the time here is that in order to actually be able to sell high value services and do this from a sort of LinkedIn influencer type way, or a way that, people are being impacted in a meaningful way by what you write, you have to position yourself as a thought leader. If you're a lawyer, it is taken as given that you have the expertise, that you have the knowledge. So to make that difference, you have to be known, you have to be liked, you have to be trusted, and you have to become the go-to person in your niche, or at least in your area. And then people say to me, okay, but how do I do that? And that's what we're going to go into here.
Nice intro. That was really good, Helen.
Oh, thank you, Holly. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I want to start off by talking about the difference between influencer. Well, influencer, like everyone wants to be an influencer, everyone talks about influencing, but then there's also influencers and thought leaders. And the difference is influencers are looking for virality, they're looking to go viral, they're looking for attention, they're looking for the next big trend, which is absolutely fine. But as lawyers, the best positioning is to position yourself as a thought leader, because you're positioning yourself as a complete expert in your area, your niche. So this is why it's important to not be looking at, okay, how can I create the next big viral posts? And we did a podcast with William Peake, and he talked about lawyers getting drunk on the algorithm. And for me, that's like they're trying to be an influencer, but they're kind of missing the point here. If the goal is to just get loads of attention, then that's absolutely fine. But usually the goal for lawyers on LinkedIn is to come across as an expert and authority, be the go-to person in that area of law. Now, I actually want to just throw at you, Helen, like a controversial comment.
What? This isn't in the script. What do you mean? You're putting me on the spot.
That sounds scripted, but it's actually not. Yeah.
By the way, guys, none of this is scripted. None of it. Absolutely none of it. So what you see is what you get. This is actually what we're like.
Well, because I know one of your favorite things, Helen, is to be put on the spot, I decided, you know what? I'm going to put you on the spot. So basically, I got a comment today on my post. I don't know if you saw it. I did actually tag you in it, but I know you don't look at when I tag you in stuff. So I want to tell you this. I'm going to say it's controversial because it goes against everything that we talk about. Okay, so I want to get your opinions on this. Right, I'm going to say it in a dramatic way, just for
You're
effect.
really building this up now. Come on, what's the comment?
This is my job. Right. Okay. The comment is: social media isn't the forum for lawyers to build trust and be taken seriously. Trust as a concept is earned, and it is earned by actual performance, not performative posting. Love that. I would not trust a lawyer, or for that matter, any professional, based upon what they put out on social media. In fact, if anything, it might be more likely to create mistrust depending on the content and views expressed. Guys, put in the comments what your opinions on this, because I want to create like a debate, like I want to know what your opinions are.
Yeah, let's
Helen.
hear all the opinions on this. I'm gonna like it's almost
Yeah.
like someone perfectly placed that for us, knowing that we were doing this topic today. Thank you to whoever wrote that. I mean, it's well written, right?
Very well written, written by a lawyer, of course. So yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Helen.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're going to take that line of reasoning that actually everything you say on social media and LinkedIn, etc., doesn't matter as a lawyer, that's the same as saying, well, there's no point writing any articles as a lawyer. There's no point writing a bio on your website. There's no point writing any press releases or anything, because none of what you actually write down builds any trust or has any kind of relevance. The thing is, what we're talking about here is building a personal and professional brand. And that's in the round, right? It's everything you do, it's everything you say, it's how you behave, it's what your values are. So it's not just about writing, but writing is a medium through which people can get to know you. They get to understand your expertise, your values, what you stand for. You're also front of mind. So when they need that lawyer, they're going to pick up the phone to you. There are three things you need to get people to buy from you, and that's they have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. So if you meet someone, let's say at a conference, and you exchange business cards, a couple of nice emails, and then you see them 6 months later, are you likely to hire that person, or are you likely to hire the person who you met at the same conference? You meet another person and you see them almost every day on LinkedIn, you're chatting in the comments, you're messaging, maybe off the back of that you have further calls. It's not saying that social media is separate from the rest of life. Actually, it's a huge enhancement, and we can see that there's a reason for this. I mean, people like William, people like these big personalities on the platform now who are highly successful. And I know that sounds like a jealous comment to me. I'm probably going to get ghosted, or not ghosted, bullied on LinkedIn for that now. But I just don't understand the reasoning behind it, because, as I say, the logic would be, well, you don't write any articles, press releases, or even bother to have a website.
It's a very good point, actually. The old way of doing things was to network one to one at events. It was a very slow process. Whereas now, why not leverage social media? I would suggest this person is saying that social media is looked upon as a non reliable source and a platform which isn't respected or trusted. This is the like the sentiment that I'm getting. Not sure why I'm using such big words. It's probably because I'm with you, Helen. You just have that effect on me. but, but this is what they're trying to say. I would say. But then the thing is, I mean, my comment back was like, well, what about those people who are getting clients from LinkedIn? You know, all the lawyers are hanging out on LinkedIn. Why not use it as your networking room? Why not build authority? Like I'll give you an example, and I know that you've got an example as well, actually. But an example of this
Can you
is
stop
so.
reading my mind? You do that. You're like, I know you've got an like how what?
It's so weird, isn't it? But
It's weird, yeah.
anyway, that's another topic for another day. So a few weeks ago, I did a post about the first AI driven law firm. I saw it on the SRA website. I saw that nobody else had posted about it. So I wanted to position myself as what we're calling in this a thought leader, an expert on the topic of AI, law, the latest trends, the legal profession. So I did a post about it, and it became very, very popular, and a lot of people were commenting. I got hundreds of messages from law tech people, lawyers, AI companies, everyone, because they saw me as the person who knew about this topic, the authority on this topic, because I was talking about it and I was the first one to talk about it. And I was the first one to create that conversation in a big way on LinkedIn. Like there could have been other people talking about it, but this is my opinion and like experience from it. So for me, that changed everything because I realized the power of positioning yourself as a thought leader through topics like this. And it's not just reporting legal news. It's not like, oh, this happened. It's having your stance, your say on it. And that's how you position yourself as a thought leader. And if you wanted to position yourself as like an influencer, you would simply just report it. But if you have your take on it, your opinion, your views, your insights, and how it will affect the industry, this is the difference between influencing and being an expert, right?
See, I would say you can actually do both. I think so. As probably quite a lot of you know, I live in Bali these days, and it's basically just full of influencers who are just showing off their abs or their plastic surgery, or millions of TikTok followers or whatever. And it's a very different scene. That's very self-obsessed. It's like, sort of, look at me, I'm so beautiful, or I'm doing this, or I'm eating this whatever, or drinking this matcha latte, and look how wonderful I am. We're actually talking here about adding loads of value to your audience through your own expertise. That still creates a huge amount of influence. So, I think the word influencer is bandied around, and it can be perhaps unhelpful if we think of, I don't even want to say TikTok or anything like that is unhelpful. I think it's all about the way in which you use social media. Like, videos are extremely powerful. If people see you on video, I haven't done them recently, but I have in the past. So extremely powerful. I think, to be honest, it's behind the times to make a comment like that, isn't it? Behind the times.
Well, we'll say no more. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. So, so I think with becoming a thought leader, there's a hidden psychology behind it. What I mean by this is, in order for you as a lawyer to position yourself as an expert, you need to think about psychology. So, how am I being perceived? So, we're going to go through a few different points of, it's not just about what you write, but it's about other things as well. So, I mean, Helen, this is something that you taught me and something that we spoke about with Estelle on another episode, is about what you wear. You taught me that what you wear is absolutely everything in your pictures, how you're positioned. And that is why my profile picture on LinkedIn is literally me on a stage with a microphone wearing a professional outfit and glasses. Like, I want to be seen as a professional person, a speaker, and someone who is taken seriously for their authority in their niche, which is the legal industry.
Oh gosh, I feel like I've told this story now a few times, but it's the one where when I was still a lawyer, all through my career, I was very aware of how I was coming across, how I was speaking, how I was being perceived, or aware of how I might be perceived, for example.
Is that why you say big words?
Oh, we had this argument earlier on. Holly says I use really big words, and I think I'm just educated, but there we go.
Oh,
That was such a burn, wasn't it? It was such a burn.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
To
yeah,
me and like full
you'll
audience,
get me
but
back
yeah.
in a minute. um, so yeah, when I was in the law firm, I was very aware that certain senior partners who, pull, what do you say, like pulled the strings for a promotion, would just like certain things. They appreciated it if you were there in a suit, if you had a jacket on, if you, I know this is un-PC to say, it is factual what I'm about to say, but wore heels. And actually it was a female partner. So before everybody starts going completely crazy. But I was aware of all this. And so I played the game. I always had a suit jacket on the back of my chair or my coat hanger, always had my heels under my desk. I was always ready to look the part. And I'm very aware of that, as Holly says, even in my LinkedIn posts now, I mix them up. So I do a lot of natural ones because I want people to see the real me, feel as though they actually know me. Like, it is genuine, it is authentic. That is super important to me. Equally, though, I want to position myself as an expert in this field. And I'm only going to be taken seriously if people see me looking the way that I would need to look if, for example, you put me in a boardroom in London. So I do mix that up with professional photos as well. And that's done very deliberately. The way that both of our profiles look, the way that we present ourselves, the way that we talk, the way that we show photos, it's all thought through. And I think that's why it's about seeing your personal brand in the round. You're not going to turn up to a client meeting, or you shouldn't, probably, depending on who your client is, in old trainers, for example. And it's the same thing with LinkedIn. It's thinking about, how am I being perceived? How am I coming across? What image do I need to be portraying?
Absolutely. So, Helen, why would you say the LinkedIn thought leaders of today will be the future legal rainmakers of tomorrow?
Because they already are, right? So the people who are putting themselves out there, by the way, I don't know if anyone will be happy to say this in the chat, but if you are, like, if you've won business off this platform, Can you just say like yes, or like that you have one business? I know some of the people who definitely signed up as attendees, obviously I won't name any names, definitely have, because they've told me, lots of the clients that we work with all the time, they are making money through LinkedIn. They are getting referrals, often not even through sales posts. It's just people know who they are and they talk about themselves and their lives, and people get to know them. Maybe they're funny sometimes. It's mixing that up, isn't it? And they show their expertise as well. And then the clients come. Like, we've both built businesses off the platform. Our clients build businesses off the platform. I'm really glad you said that, Craig. I'm glad that
That's
Craig
great.
confirmed. Yes, many, many times. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to name you because I thought that's a bit harsh. But yeah, and Craig is super active on the platform. I think you're number 2 in the lawyer charts at the moment, aren't you, Craig? I'm waiting for you to become number 1. So yeah, I mean, it's a fact that the reality is, if you are putting yourself out there and you have a clear brand, you have a clear offer, and you have consistent messaging, and you get your ideal audience in your network because you're talking their language and you're adding value to them, they will buy from you. And it isn't necessarily the big hit post. Like I was saying to Holly, I had a few inquiries off my post today, which actually has been one of my lowest performing posts, but it hit a few nerves in terms of pain points of some of my ideal audience, getting promoted, for example, into partnership at law firms. So it's just factual. And at this point, there are still not that many lawyers really active on the platform, really pushing themselves on the platform. So there's a real opportunity to grow your following, to get people into your network. The more and more saturated it becomes, it's going to be harder. It's already so much harder than 12 to 18 months ago, because the quality of the writing has to be higher now, the consistency has to be more, because you're fighting against all the other accounts to be seen. If you're already a big account and you've got the following, you've already got the reach. So that's why time is of the essence. If you wait a year or two, you're actually putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. The other thing is, I hear from lawyers all the time, oh, but I'm too junior, I have nothing to say. Well, actually, that's rubbish, because you've always got something to say. You can always come from, I guess we can talk about this in more detail, can't we, Holly? But you can always come from wherever you are, in terms of, you can still talk about the law, you can still talk about practice areas, you can talk about mentorship, you can talk about all sorts of different things. But the point is, you want to be growing that network early, because you don't want to grow the network when you need the network. You need to start planting the seeds now, and these may bear fruit in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years time. Some people on this platform, so I've been posting consistently for 3 years, I've known for like 3 years, almost speaking every single day. I'm thinking probably Craig's one of them, actually. I feel like, Craig, you've been there since almost the beginning. And it's weird, isn't it? Because that's actually a really long time. Holly, have you found the same sort of thing? Has it been, well, I know it's been useful for you because we also have a business together, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And the funny thing is, I think whenever I tell a story on LinkedIn, and it's a story, but it's also has lessons within it, and it's also kind of in itself a thought leadership piece, because it's like still positioning myself as an expert, whether that's, I don't know, in an entrepreneurial way, or like in terms of knowing about the legal profession. By the way, if anyone's got any questions, let us know. We are going to talk about like the nitty gritty of positioning yourself as a thought leader, as opposed to like just posting stuff. But yeah, no, I find that stories really, really resonate with people when you want to position yourself as an expert. So you're involving yourself in that, and then bringing in lessons that you've learned, etc., etc. But yeah, I find that LinkedIn is a massively powerful platform, and it is such an easy way now. I say easy, obviously, it's not simple to construct posts, but it's easy in terms of you stay consistent, you show up, you know how to write properly, you write about the right things, you get the right attention from the right audiences, you create conversations, you network. It's fairly easy in that sense. So it's such a powerful way to start building your expertise, especially as lawyers. And people do start to trust you. So I do disagree with that comment that was left in my post about social media not being the right place to trust lawyers. I completely disagree with it, because we literally have Craig and other people who have literally got clients off of LinkedIn as lawyers. And in our academy, we had people who got clients as well. So it's like, it's happening, it's a reality.
You can jump in and ask me a question if you want. I thought something cool that we might do, Holly, I don't know what you think, is Karen has actually said, I want you to have a conversation around the fact that he says, I'm regularly posting, however, it's not working for me. I've actually just had a quick look at his profile, and I think this is actually probably a good example. I can just give a couple of high level points as to why I think it's not working, because I think a
Okay.
lot of people have this question. They think, okay, so I'm posting and I'm saying useful stuff in reasonably
Hmm.
straightforward language that's helpful to my audience, which I can see that you're doing, Karen. And I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong in any way, by the way. Just at a very high level, I think one of the key things that Holly and I talk about is you need your posts to be super simple, and you need the first line, the hooks, to just be go straight in with the client's pain point. So, for example, you don't want too complicated first or second sentences. You want to actually hit the client, where they're worried. And I think, for example, in your first post, Karen, I can see that we've actually got a really long first sentence, which is saying, following up on my recent post about successes, assigns, and party name clause boilerplates that shouldn't be blindly trusted. If I'm scrolling through a feed, there's a lot happening there, a lot happening. And actually, it's not something that I'm connecting to, because you're saying, following on from my recent posts, why do I care about your recent posts? I don't mean that in a horrible way. I mean, you've got to talk to me, the reader, and you've got to grab my attention. I'm going through, I'm scrolling, I'm half asleep, or I'm like on the bus and I'm getting elbowed by someone. You've got to make what you write so exciting that I'm going to stop, like actually stop what I'm doing or give it my attention. So it needs to pull people in more. You've got really good content here, but it just needs to be positioned a bit differently. And I think just thinking about the top of those posts is really key. And we've got another one I'm looking at of yours here again, is successor versus successor in interest, and why one may screw up your contract. Unless I'm particularly bought into that topic, I don't care. So again, actually, it's about, I would be coming in with something really strong and saying something like, this one clause can cost you thousands or whatever. You can make it stronger than that even. You need to talk to my pain point to say, if you don't sort this out, you could be losing hundreds of thousands, whatever. Because then I'm going to stop scrolling and then I'm going to read the detail. So I'm actually giving that level of detail here on this call, or this session, just to give you guys an idea. It's about being having an opinion. It's about being a thought leader, but it's about putting yourself in the shoes of your audience. So you're not just throwing legal jargon at them or too much information. And bearing in mind, you're not writing articles on LinkedIn. You're writing short posts just to grab attention and add, a bit of value, a lot of value actually, but it'll be like 1 point per post. Holly,
Good one.
deep in thought.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the other comments, but also I wanted to add that you've got to assume that with every post that you write, that the audience doesn't know who you are. So write it for
Yeah,
a new person who doesn't know who you are. So if you're saying stuff like, "Oh, just going back to my last post," it's like people don't know. What about the new people who don't know you? I always, assume that people don't know me in the posts, and then some posts,
they
I'll
don't know you, do they, Holly?
most all do. Right, let's look at these other questions. Right, this is I spend nearly 16 hours a day on LinkedIn. Gee whiz, I don't spend 16 hours a
Wow.
day a week.
Oh my
No matter
gosh.
no matter where I am, I'm always logged in. Even when I'm away from the laptop, I use my phone remotely to access control on the laptop. Just to stay active on LinkedIn, what do you say about this?
You need to get out more. I don't spend I don't, to be honest, look, I think there's a really important point to make here. LinkedIn is like a flywheel. In the early stages, you have to put quite a bit of time in the sense you have to be posting quite a lot and commenting a lot on other people's profiles. By the way, your comments will be seen nearly as much as your posts, or as much as your posts. So if you're not sure what to write, or you don't have time, or you're trying to build that bigger network and appreciate other people in your community because they're going to reciprocate that back, you need to spend some time on the platform. But you certainly don't need to be spending 16 hours a day. And I think, once you've built up a following, it becomes a lot easier because you've already got that momentum. I mean, I would have thought, if you can spend at the early stages half an hour to an hour a day on it, then you'll grow. You'll grow pretty well. I mean, I appreciate as well, a lot of lawyers here will be thinking, well, I don't have that time. And I think that's fine too, because here, coming back to the thought leader point, you don't need millions of people in your network. If you've got 500 of the right people in your network and you're providing value to them often, you're going to become the go-to expert in your niche. So it depends what you're trying to achieve, really.
Yeah. I mean, I normally allocate a certain amount of time, but I wouldn't get anything done if I was on there 16 hours a day. I'm also, yeah, not awake 16 hours a day. I sleep a lot. Anyway. Um, okay, so you both get very high engagement on your post, and I was wondering what was the turning point for each of you? I know your turning point, Helen. You started to use your opinion.
You know the story so well, don't you? You could tell me. You might as well just tell my story. You didn't know me then, did you?
No, I didn't, and I wasn't even there for that turning point.
No.
But but whatever. Yeah, no, you were just posting generic stuff, and then one day you decided, you know what, I'm gonna post a impactful, opinionated post, and then you posted it and then hid under the table.
Oh my god, do you even remember that bit? Yeah, literally, that's what happened. Yeah. And then I was like, wow, my gosh, actually, when I speak with my opinion, people really want to hear this. And it was interesting, actually, because I thought it was a post that might, can't think of the word, it's late in the evening here, but sort of isolate, or, I thought people wouldn't be that
Mm,
favourable towards it, but actually it did quite the opposite. And I think that's where it's a lot of lawyers are too afraid to give an opinion. I'm not saying you need to say something massively controversial. You absolutely don't. But people can go to the newspaper. You can go to the Economist, the FT, whatever deal newsletter you read, and you can read about what's happening. So if you're just regurgitating that on LinkedIn, you're not adding enough value. Also, if you're on LinkedIn just saying, read my article, you're not adding enough value, because what percentage of people scrolling through are actually going to read your article? What you need to be doing is summarizing that article and putting some value in the post itself. So you've captured those people who are scrolling, and then the article comes as well. So it's about not being afraid to position yourself as that person with authority. What was your,
yeah,
I think I know your moment.
go on then.
It was your introduction post, wasn't it?
Correct. Well done.
So Holly was on Lara Acosta's cohort, wasn't it? The first ever cohort. When was
Yeah,
it? Back in 23?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do I know? I didn't even know you then. I feel like I was there. I feel like I know the story as well. Yeah, you were on that. And Lara said that everybody has to do an introduction post in a particular style, because when she did this, she had basically no following, and then it went viral. So Holly did the same thing. And I think you got 800 and something likes.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, yeah. Very good, yeah. And I had like not that, like 800 connections at that point, and it like yeah, it went crazy. And then it just like after that, every post that I wrote just got a lot of engagement. So you never know, the post that you post could be your post. You know, that just goes crazy.
But also, again, just really highlighting here that it can be great for your brand and for reach to have viral posts if it's in line with what you're personally and professionally trying to achieve. Going back to what William Peake said with us on the podcast, he was saying, lawyers are addicted, or that some of them are becoming kind of, addicted to the likes and pleasing the algorithm. And that's totally the wrong approach. There's going to be partners listening to this who are in big law, who are thinking, over my dead body am I going to write something like some sort of introduction post? And they just will be thinking that. And that's totally fine. What I would say to you is I would want to be positioning you as the expert in your field. So we show a bit of your personality, maybe something about dog walking at the weekend or running a marathon or something or other now and again. But then we would be positioning you as the expert on topics that are relevant and important to your client base. And by doing that, we would actually have some sort of opinion and be coming down with or providing value that can't be found elsewhere. Because that's why people come to you, right? Think about barristers. I was a litigator. So when you instruct the barristers, you go to them for an opinion because you want their opinion. If you're just pushing paper, why are people paying you?
Exactly, Helen. Right. So before we answer any more questions, we need to talk about the starter pack. I want you to talk about that.
Okay.
And then we need to do a quick rundown. Like, let's do like a me and you brainstorm, like point, 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 bit like a boxing match on how to be like the main points on how to be a thought leader on LinkedIn
Okay.
as a lawyer.
Right, okay. So the LinkedIn starter pack, we actually still need to take this off the early bird. At the moment, it's at a really crazy low price of like 44 quid. We've got a starter pack with all of the materials and frameworks and everything you need to get going on LinkedIn and then also run with it. So you can write posts, you can identify your ideal audience, your ideal clients, your everything. Basically, it's everything you need to get going and it will help you post. I know that some of the people here today have actually bought it. If you have bought it and you liked it, please do say so. That would be a great thing to do. I will drop the link in there as we say, like it's kind of our how can I put it? It's at a very low price point, and it provides so much value because instead of writing posts that just aren't landing, it's going to give you structure, and it's also going to help you understand who you're supposed to be talking to. The other thing is we're really curious to know at the moment, just generally, who is interested in all this thought leadership stuff. We presume you are if you're here, but we're just actually collecting interest at the moment because we're curious to know who's interested, and then maybe we'll send some emails and say, what might you be interested in? Would you be interested in us doing a webinar on this or whatever else? So if you're one of those people who thinks, you know what, I'd quite like to hear your insights on this topic, please do put your name down, and then in due course we'll just be in touch. We're just trying to sort of gauge interest, really. So I'm going to
Mhm.
drop these links in the chat and I'll let Holly answer that question.
Cool. I really like this question. How do you define bringing value when posting or commenting? Because this is exactly how you become a thought leader, which is obviously what we're talking about. Well, it's one of the roots too, and one of the core fundamental pillars, I would say, when you're building up a presence and authority as a thought leader. So bringing value when posting or commenting. So I'll talk about commenting first. So when you're writing a comment, let's say somebody has written a really interesting post about a legal update. I know that's like an oxymoron, if that's the right term. But like, so let's say someone's written something really, really interesting, and you're like, oh, I can add to this because I can add my insight to this and my perspective because I am actually an expert on this topic as well, or I want to be an expert, or I know a bit about it. So adding value in this circumstance would be adding a really interesting perspective that nobody else has thought about, that makes people think, oh, that's interesting, or that adds a little bit extra information that people don't already know about. So I don't know, let's say I'm going to give a really dramatic, extreme example, but let's say there was like a law change and I don't know, what, like a law was just completely abolished or something, and you were in that meeting with the people who are in charge of abolishing that law. You can be like, well, actually the reason why we abolished it is because of X, Y, and Z, and you can add that information. So that's like an extreme way of telling you how you could add value when posting. So to add value to your audience, you need to think about, what would my audience want to know, what would be useful to them. And this could be something insightful, inspiring, educational, or it could also be entertaining as well. Because entertaining someone is still adding value to them. You're you're lightening their day, you're making them laugh, you're making them happy, and something inspiring is making them feel motivated or productive. So when you think, you don't need to think about adding value as being something quite complicated. It's just simply adding something extra to that person that they wouldn't have already got before. It's literally as simple as that, I would say. Do you want to add anything extra, Helen? I'm aware that we need to, crack
Move
on.
along. It was just to say on the entertainment one, actually, I know that Craig did a post a few days ago that got something like 3,000 likes. And that was it was a sort of hark back to the olden days, but it was done in an entertaining way. And he sort of does them quite regularly.
Mm,
And I love those
mm,
posts, absolutely love them. And I think that's the thing. It doesn't, that a big mistake that a lot of people make is that they think, well, I want to sell or I want to get clients. So they just focus on the sale or they focus on the thing they want to get from the other person.
mm.
Networking, whether it's in person, whether it's online, you need to be always leading with generosity. How can you help your audience? How can you educate them, as Holly says? That's the key thing. It's leading with generosity and thinking what would help them. That's just what I do every single day. I turn up and I think, what would benefit my audience to hear? What can I add? And honestly, if I've got nothing to add one day, I won't write anything because I'm not there just to spam you. I'm not there to sort of take your attention for no point. And that's a really key point as well, because you don't want to write for writing's sake, because then people become bored of you because your content isn't very good.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which is a way to be a thought leader, isn't it? Really, like if you got something interesting to say, something insightful to say, which adds value to your audience, it educates them probably. Then you're showcasing yourself as an expert because people will know and rely upon the fact that every time you post, they're going to get something out of that post, and that's the true definition of adding value. So, Helen, should we have a boxing match?
I don't even know what this is going to involve.
You say a point. Well, I can say a point. We'll just do like a quick fire thing. I'll say a point first. Okay, what do you think makes a thought leader? Okay, in my opinion, it's how they come across, visibility, what they wear. Are they wearing something like professional? Do they look like an expert? Like now you think of something different.
Oh, okay. So it's how is someone a thought leader? I think you've got to be saying things that are useful, valuable, and intelligent for your audience. And I think you can't hold back on opinion. Just thinking of people like Simon Sinek, he gets up there, he says something different, he makes you think in a different way. And I think you've got to be confident as well. Even if you're not feeling it on the inside, you've got to be projecting confidence.
Right, you're only allowed to say 1 point, Helen.
How many was
Right,
that?
I'll say two.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
I've got
Cool,
too
good
much
one.
value to add, Holly.
Okay, well, something I would say is like they usually come up with frameworks, like you say, Simon Sinek. He comes up with what is it like? Know your why. What is it?
It's
Why not what?
Well, that's the title of one of his books. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
is it? I've read it actually. Well, he talks about like why. So if you're a thought leader, you make up like, I don't know, you can make up like methods or models or like structures or frameworks, and you stick to those frameworks. Like for example, also Daniel Priestley has the how to become a key person of influence. He's like termed that phrase. So they usually have like phrases and stuff. Not everyone has to do that, but like that's a symptom of a thought leader. Have you got another one, Helen?
I have actually, based on what you just said. So the whole Simon Sinek thing, probably a lot of you know this already. If you don't, you should definitely read up on it because it's so key to life, business, and everything. He talks about the importance of the why. So you've got the why, the how, and the what. The why is why you're doing something, your reasoning. It will come down to your value base. The how is how you do it, and the what is what you actually deliver. And where people make huge mistakes in terms of selling is they talk about the what. So you think about computers, he uses Apple as an example. If I just say to you, hey, can I sell you this computer? It's really good, it's kind of fast. Yeah, it's new, it's made of this material. I'm telling you what it is, and you're sitting there being completely bored and uninspired. If I'm Apple, though, I'm saying, how about you buy into this whole movement? We're about innovation. We're about doing tech differently, blah, 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 blah. People become so bought into Apple, they will buy the next products regardless of what they are, because they are buying into the values and the why of that company. What you want is for people to follow you because of who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you speak about. So that's what we're talking about in thought leadership, personal branding. So that was a complicated point, but that was a point.
No, that's a really, really good one. Yeah, that's really great. I think also as a lawyer, to build authority, you make complicated topics simple and understandable to your audience. So you break it down for them and you build trust this way, because people start to kind of, I don't know, notice you because they understand what you're saying, they can resonate with what you're saying, and they realize that you are an expert because you're able to simplify things in their language.
You've got to make it about your audience, not about you. So this goes back to the point I was saying earlier when I was reviewing some posts. Start off by adding value in a short, sharp way that speaks to your ideal audience's pain point. Don't make it about you. Don't tell them what you were doing this week. Don't give them jargon. Don't give them long legal words. Talk straight to their pain point. You need to be talking directly to the reader throughout. And by the way, don't say we. You'll probably shoot me tomorrow, so I'll probably say we. But generally in post, don't say, well, we say this, we say that. I see that with lawyers all the time. Don't do it. I know you do it in articles. That's okay. On LinkedIn, it's you, because the reader has to feel like they're the only person in front of you. This has to be personal. It has to be a strong connection.
Nice one. I would also say, which is something you kind of already said, but I just want to like really kind of emphasize it more in a different way. But you don't just describe things, you critique them, you add value, you add opinions, you add insights, you add perspectives. Like, you're not just presenting something, you're actually giving something to the reader and the audience, and making them see you as the person who knows what you're talking about, and that you are a specialist in that area.
Yeah. And the final thing that I would say here is, on your posts, you need to be thinking about this as your community. It's not just you turn up, you post, and you go have a cup of tea and you switch off LinkedIn for the next week. Be there, respond to people's comments, build that community, support them as well. This isn't the you show. It's funny, isn't it, that the biggest rainmakers are super connectors. They remember people, they remember their birthdays, they remember to be in touch. They're brilliant networkers. They have high emotional intelligence, or they have high learned emotional intelligence, because maybe they're high on the sociopathic spectrum, but we'll leave that there. But basically, though, they understand how to make people feel special. So stop making it about you. Like, be there for your community, for your network. Finish your post with a question. Don't just sort of give them a bit of information and walk off. It's imagining you're in a conversation with someone. You don't walk up and say, there's this law and this has happened, so change your contract, and then stop and stare at them. You just wouldn't do it. So just behave like you would in person. I know that sounds weird because it might be written or a video, but do the same thing.
Nice one.
We are so excited to help you unlock LinkedIn's potential with our LinkedIn Starter Pack for lawyers. Across 11 chapters, we'll walk you through creating a profile that stands out, crafting content that connects, and building a network that works for you. It's designed to help you take your career or business to the next level. It's completely interactive, so it's not like reading a dull book on marketing. Go to the link in the description of this episode for more information.